Hey, real quick, before we dive into today's episode, if you've been feeling like your brand needs a little love, but you're not quite sure where to start, I have just the tool you need. The Standout Brand Audit Bot is an AI-powered guided audit that shows you exactly what's working, what's not, and how to strengthen your brand using my proven Standout brand system. In 10 minutes or less, you'll walk away with clear next steps to move your brand forward with purpose. It's completely free. Just head to the show notes to grab the link and get started. There is so much emphasis on scaling as an online business owner. First, we start our businesses to get out of a corporate job that we didn't love, probably working as part of a team, and we're really excited to work by ourselves and be our own boss. And then very quickly, our focus shifts to, okay, how can I grow? And sometimes it seems like the only way to grow is to grow a team. But building a team is not just about finding people to outsource your tasks to. It really truly does hinge on stepping into a completely new and up-leveled version of yourself, and sometimes that can be really hard. So on today's episode, we're going to talk about what it looks like to grow a team as an online service provider, and I'm going to let you in on the behind the scenes of my journey from freelancer to solopreneur to having a small team, where I messed up and what I would do differently, what my team looks like today, and what I see for the future. Welcome to the Six Figure Brand Podcast, where each week we're pulling back the curtain on what it really takes to build a six-figure business as an online service provider. I'm your host, Morgan. I'm a branding expert, online agency owner, mom of two, and military spouse, and I'm obsessed with helping entrepreneurs like you understand the ins and outs of branding so that you can use it to grow your business without sacrificing your sanity. Whether you're just starting out or focused on scaling, we're diving into everything you need to build a profitable and sustainable online business. Let's get to it. I want to start by walking you through what growing a team has looked like for me in various stages of my business, going all the way back to the beginning in 2016, whenever I got my first freelance Squarespace design job off of Upwork. So that was from about 2016 to 2017, and I really would call that my freelancer era. I did not have a legit business. I didn't have a business name. I don't think I even had an LLC. At that point, I was on Upwork and posting in Facebook groups and just taking basically odd graphic design jobs here and there. And as such, I was wearing all the hats in my business. I was first and foremost the designer, but also the project manager, the bookkeeper, client support, et cetera, et cetera. At that point in my business, I was very scrappy, and that worked for me. I didn't know any different. I didn't really have any big dreams of becoming an agency owner. I just thought, okay, this is a cool way that I can make some money on the side and maybe eventually leave my corporate job to just freelance full-time is kind of how I was viewing it. It was nowhere on my radar that I would be someone's creative director or their boss someday. And I think at that time, I was really in the mindset of, okay, I'm getting paid to produce, like the amount of hours that I crank out, the amount of design deliverables, that's where my value lies. And so I was not yet thinking like a business owner in the way that I am now, where I realize that it's not really about how many logos I design. It's about my strategy and my expertise that I bring to the table. So again, that was from about 2016 to about 2018. If you've listened to the earlier episodes of the podcast, you know that I left my corporate job at the end of 2018 in October to run my business full time. At this point, I did have a business coach, but I did not have any team members. And that worked for a while because as I was leaving my full-time job, I suddenly had 40 hours a week to work instead of 5 or 10. And I didn't have clients to fill up all that time. So I was not feeling the pressure that would have required me to grow a team immediately. And again, that was not really something that I wanted. I was kind of looking to get away from being part of a team in the way that I was in corporate. And I was really excited about just working by myself with my dog and sharing an office with my husband. But pretty quickly, my business grew. So I left my full-time job in October 2018. And by summer of 2019, I did not realize it, but I was already deep into burnout. I got very busy very quickly, which was such a blessing and such needed confirmation for me that I had made the right choice to leave my full-time job, but I was drowning. I was starting to have a ton of anxiety whenever it came to sitting down to do work for the day. And I felt like I was just perpetually behind because now I was spending more than half my time managing clients and doing admin tasks. At that point was not even really putting any effort into marketing, which was not a smart choice, but that's just what time allowed. So I'm spending probably at that point 60% of my time running the business and 40% of my time doing design work. And the design work at that stage is what I really wanted to be doing. I had niched into specifically brand and website design, and I wanted to choose the color palettes and make the logos and build the websites. And I was feeling really bogged down by all of the admin stuff. Like, I did not enjoy onboarding clients or sending invoices. I enjoyed getting paid from those invoices, but all of the more technical stuff just felt like a huge drain to me. And that was the point that my business coach basically told me, you have to hire help. You are gonna crumble if you don't. And thank goodness she had the perfect person for me to hire, so I did not have to go through any sort of hiring or vetting process. So at that point, I hired a VA. Her name was Sadie Prestridge, and she was Erin's VA at the time. So I knew the level of work that she did, and that instantly changed my life and my business. I cannot tell you what a huge difference that made. And I recognize that your first hire is probably not going to be that easy for everyone. I really, really lucked out by having a business coach who had a referral for me of someone they really trusted and that it worked out. That's definitely not always the case. But Sadie's business has since grown into an agency herself. So she has built a team alongside me, and I have stayed with them ever since 2019. So it's 2026 now. I've been working with the same VA agency for 7 years. That is a huge testament to choosing the right people to be on your team. Even though I knew the great work that Sadie did because I had experienced it on the client side, being a client of Erin's, I was still pretty hesitant. First and foremost, I was hesitant about the money. So at that time, I was making a pretty solid 5 figures a month, and the investment to hire a VA was about 10% of that. So that felt not really like a risk because I knew that I would get value out of it, but it definitely was added pressure of, okay, I need to keep up this level of work and client flow in my business because now I have somebody that's counting on me to pay them. I also, and this in hindsight was kind of silly, but was afraid that I wouldn't know what to delegate to somebody or how to delegate to them. Unfortunately, especially with a VA, Sadie had a really good system of here are the things that I will take off your plate. And so she kind of drove that. And again, that was such a blessing for me with my first hire to have somebody else who kind of could lead in that way. I think when we think about hiring, we think, okay, I'm going to have to train them and tell them how this process is going to work and really be in the driver's seat, but it doesn't necessarily always have to be that way. When you can hire somebody who is really a true expert in what they do, you can kind of sit back and let them run the show and tell you how it should look like for you two to work together. And that can be really reassuring, especially when it's your first hire and it's something that you're a little bit hesitant about. So that was what my first little foray into hiring looked like. I hired a VA first, someone that I already knew and really trusted. And that was really a game changer for my business. I was not yet ready to let go of the design work, but I was happy to let go of the admin tasks. And that allowed me to focus on my zone of genius, which was designing brands and websites. It also allowed my clients to be better supported. So then I could take on more clients because I had more time to deliver their projects. It was a few months after that I started to get that same feeling of teetering on the edge of burnout again, even though I was just doing design work. I was again so busy with clients that I just felt like I never could get ahead of things. And the real problem for me was that I didn't have any time at all to work in my own business. So at that point, I started looking for a graphic designer to work for me. And I would say this was definitely my biggest learning experience when it comes to hiring. I would not say I have any regrets about this, but it was a big eye-opener to me of how much of hiring a team member and their success falls on me. So is your brand feeling a little off? Your visuals, messaging, and your overall vibe just are not lining up with where your business is headed? You probably don't need another pretty logo. You actually need a solid strategy behind your brand. That's exactly what we'll build together inside the Standout Brand Strategy session, a one-on-one deep dive into your brand foundation so that you can finally show up with clarity, consistency, and confidence. And if you're thinking about working with Spect & Co. on branding or web design, this is your first step for every single project that we do together. Clients who have gone through this process have tripled their audience size, doubled their revenue, and raised their rates by 30% or more. Use the link in the show notes to book your session, and don't forget to enter code SFBPOD at checkout to save $100. I basically just wrote up a job description of here's all the tasks that I want somebody to complete, posted it in a few Facebook groups. Again, we're in 2019, 2020. here. So business Facebook groups are still big. Got a handful of applicants. I had some sort of interview process that honestly I have like blocked out at this point, probably because I was so stressed during that time, and ended up hiring somebody who did not have any formal design training, but was really willing to learn, was really excited to work with me and my team, and frankly, that I just really liked. Now, this is where nuance gets really important. So I think it's important to like the people that work for you or work with you. I think that's even one of the most important things. But what I learned here is that it can't be the only thing, especially when you are hiring because you're at a place where you are already like too busy and too overwhelmed. How much you like somebody is not going to make up for the fact that they just don't have maybe all of the skills that you need. And so that was probably something that I would do much differently here. First, I would not wait so long to start looking for somebody. So I waited until I literally like could not take it anymore. And then I was really desperate to hire somebody quickly. And I had really high expectations for how quickly they would get spun up and like become productive, which was not fair or good leadership of me. Secondly, I was really worried about the team and culture aspect and like, would we get along and would they like me? Frankly, I was definitely still in my people pleasing era at that time. So I prioritized more who did I think I could get along with and that like flattered me a little bit, I think is a fair way to say it, versus somebody that I knew could deliver and would not need so much handholding because I did not have the time to hold a lot of hands at that point. So I won't say that this hire went poorly. It worked out for several months. It definitely got me through that like tough season. And then business ended up slowing down. And so I just didn't have any work for them. And we kind of parted ways amicably and it was totally fine. So again, not a failure by any means. It was a really great first experience for me. And I learned so much about how to hire a subcontractor in your business. I think the biggest things that I learned are don't wait too long to hire somebody. Make sure you have really solid systems and SOPs set up so that somebody can hit the ground running, and to equally prioritize culture fit and skill fit. That one is not more important than the other. And also being, 5 out of 5 stars in one area is not going to make up for being 2 out of 5 stars in another area. I think at this time in my business, in relation to hiring and having a team, but also just in general, there was a lot of like emotional stuff going on. Keep in mind, I hadn't even been running my business full time for a year at this point. So I was really overwhelmed with being excited that my business was so successful so quickly, but also feeling a lot of pressure. And like, I didn't really know what I was doing, like was not prepared for this. I had great support. I had an awesome business coach, a fiance at the time, husband now, who was like my number one cheerleader. I had a VA who was taking a lot off my plate. So it's not that I didn't have the support that I needed, but I just think that we don't talk enough about how that first year full-time in business is such an emotional roller coaster. And in hindsight, I can see how that affected that first graphic designer hire that I made. Because like I said, I felt responsible for someone else's income. I felt like I had no business being someone's boss. I was a little bit afraid to give feedback because I didn't want to hurt somebody's feelings and I didn't want to micromanage them. But I also, on the flip side of that, was feeling frustrated myself because sometimes things were not getting done when or how I would have wanted them to. So I was caught between wanting to like preserve the level of work that Spec & Co does, build this relationship with this new person, try and train them when I really didn't have time to be training them, and then stepping into my own new identity of shifting from being a freelancer to a true business owner. So it was just a lot going on all at once. And I'm so grateful that Sadie and her team have stuck with me through all of that. But I definitely do not think that I showed up as best as I could have in that season. Now looking back with all of the knowledge that I have now. And a lot of that had to do with just the emotional roller coaster that is starting and growing a business. Since then, I think I have learned to communicate better. I've learned to kind of take my emotions out of it a little bit. I have gotten more comfortable with like setting boundaries and expectations and owning my role as the leader in my business and understanding that while it might seem to me like I'm being a jerk, being like, no, this needs to get done by this day, like we can't be flexible on this, or sending feedback and saying, I don't like the way this looks, can we retry it or something? That is what my team is looking to me to do. So that's really the most supportive and best like leadership thing that I can do for them, even though to me sometimes it feels uncomfortable. So like I said, like mid 2020, business started to slow down quite a bit. That designer sort of took her business in a different direction. Things worked out and it was all good. At that point, I was pretty settled in the fact that I did not want to grow into an agency. I didn't want to have a team. I just wanted to like hole up in my office and do my thing and make some money and like keep it pretty low key. And that was fine until I got pregnant and realized that if I wanted to continue to make money while I was on maternity leave, I was going to need somebody to be doing the client work that I would not be available for. So at the end of 2022, I went through the whole hiring process again, this time with a lot more knowledge and preparedness that I had had the first time. So put out a job description. I knew this time that it was really important that these people had the skills that I was looking for because I wasn't going to be there to hold their hand for most of this time. I ended up doing 2 rounds of interviews. So I took the initial, I think there was like 70 or 80 applicants. A lot of them got weeded out based on their rate and availability and stuff. And then I narrowed it down to, I think, 4, and I did a paid test project for them. Cannot recommend doing this enough. First and foremost, if you're going to do any sort of test project, make sure to pay people. I cannot emphasize that enough. But second, make it be the actual work that they're going to be doing. So in my case, at the time, I had a retainer client who I did a monthly newsletter for. I just took an old newsletter and sent it to them and said, hey, here's some examples of old ones. Here's the content for the new ones. I need you to make this thing. And that was a really good way to weed out, okay, who gets it, who doesn't, who's going to have the attention to detail that I'm looking for, who's going to do it in a time frame that's reasonable. Like this client only pays for X amount of hours per month, so we can't be going over that. And then I very quickly found somebody and she was great, and the rest is kind of history. So I hired that person at the end of 2022. So I was due with my daughter March 2023. And I knew that I wanted a few months of having that designer work with me while I was still around so that I could answer questions and get them up to speed and all of that stuff and have like a longer, more gradual onboarding period. So that worked out great. My daughter was due at the end of March 2023. So at the beginning of March, I basically was like, okay, pretend that I'm not here. Like designer and VA, you guys run the show. If you need anything, I'll be here to answer questions. But this is really like your test period. And I think that was huge. I don't recall them really reaching out to me for a whole lot, but it was really reassuring to me to know that if like some fire came up, I would be able to help them out and like figure out a solution so that when it came time that I was giving birth and on maternity leave and not available to put out those fires, they would know what to do and how I would handle it, and I wouldn't have to worry so much. So all of that honestly went really smoothly. And I think the big difference is all of the stuff that I learned the first time that I hired whenever I was not prepared. I didn't have SOPs. I didn't take the time to train somebody. I hired based off of like vibes and personality instead of hard skills. I never did a test project that first time. Making all of those changes to the second hiring process really made all the difference in the world. I was able to take a 3-month maternity leave, and I still opened my laptop a couple times a week, and like I worked on some stuff for my own business and I answered some Slack messages from my team, but I really was out of my business for 3 full months. And when I came back, I got so many compliments from my clients of how well my team had handled things while they were gone. They said things like, we felt so supported. They were so like nice and they did great work. And I never felt like the level of work that was being delivered changed. So that was the biggest win for me of 2023. Like that was the highlight of my year. Now, the plan was that when I made this initial hire, it was just going to be to cover my maternity leave and we would see what happens after that. When I started to phase back into my business, which was like June-ish of 2023, I very quickly realized that I didn't want to do the work that graphic designer was doing anymore. Like I didn't want to take back over those tasks. A lot of what they were doing was the like ongoing graphic design work for our retainer clients, which has now shifted into 6-Figure Brand Society. Not a ton of branding or website design at that time, but more like maintenance type stuff. And now that I had this new baby at home, I had such limited time, I really felt a pull to work on my business and be kind of like the creative director driving and overseeing the projects and like talking to clients and marketing and doing their brand strategy versus doing the more like production level type graphic design work, which was an interesting realization for me because if you remember, when I first hired that first graphic designer, I wanted to be doing all the design work, but I just didn't have time for it. That was an interesting evolution for being like, I do love design and I don't want to be fully out of it, but also it's okay if I don't do 100% of it. And that's when I kind of got the wheels turning of like, okay, maybe an agency model is which direction I want to go, because that's going to allow me to do only the parts that I love, hire really good people in my business, and continue growing. Versus if I kept all the design work for myself and I had a newborn at home, there's not that many hours in the day. Like, that would not be sustainable. So I kept that graphic designer on. She ended up working with me up until 2024. So a year and a half, 2 years, and then decided that she was going to do something different with her business, which was totally fine. I ended up going back to one of the people who I had interviewed that first time that I really loved, but it ended up not working out with, and said, "Hey, I'm looking for a new graphic designer. Are you available?" basically. And she said yes. And now she is still on my team today. So that's also a good lesson in when you interview people. If you end up with like 3 people who you really love and you can only choose one, keep the contact info and stay in touch of those number 2 and 3 choices, because hopefully your business will grow to the point that you do need to hire them later. So I would really recommend that you put some effort into not burning that bridge and maintaining those relationships if at all possible. So let's talk about what my team looks like today. You have me, obviously. I really am in the founder, CEO, creative director role right now. Most of what I'm doing for Spect & Co. is marketing, taking sales calls, doing standout brand strategy sessions, and creative directing any of the design work. So for example, for a brand design project, I will do the strategy session, the mood board, and maybe the first draft of logo concepts, and then I will pass it off to my graphic designer, Paige, who has been with us for coming up on a year now. That really allows me to still have a hand on the design work and maintain the quality of work and the level of service that I want to provide without having to spend hours and hours and hours designing, because that just does not fit with my life right now. So as far as client work in the business, you have a mix of me doing the higher level stuff, and then my graphic designer, Paige, doing all of the day-to-day, any 6-figure brand society design requests, building out client websites, building out brand kits, all of that stuff. I'm able to pass off to her, and then I just review, provide feedback, approve. And then we pass it off to Taylor, who is my VA. Again, she is part of the Prestridge & Co. VA agency, which highly, highly recommend. I will link them in the show notes. I cannot overstate how much Prestridge & Co. has supported and helped me grow my business and survive 2 maternity leaves and not burn things down when I really wanted to burn things down. So Taylor is in charge of anything that is not design related. So she onboards clients, offboards clients, sends their invoices, answers their questions. When we are coordinating like trainings for the 6-figure brand society and podcast guests, she's going back and forth with them for scheduling and getting all the information we need from them. She is the organizational brain behind Spect & Co. I like to think that I'm very organized. Taylor takes it to a whole new level and really frees up me to focus on the stuff that only I can do, which is connect with potential clients, market my business, and be the strategic and creative direction brain behind everything that we do here. Now, having my team set up the way that I do, I would never, ever in a million years go back to doing everything myself. I think that we have found such a good balance of everyone doing their own genius work that it really shows up in what we deliver to our clients. And we get compliments all the time of how seamless everything felt, how great the quality of work was, how easy it was to work with us. And that's really what I want. I want working with Spect & Co. to feel easy. You'll notice too that there's only 3 of us. I'm not trying to build like a massive, massive agency. Maybe someday down the road, hopefully we will hire like 1 or 2 more people, probably in specialties like social media or SEO or something like that, because I think that we have a good handle on the design work right now. But I do not have aspirations of being like a 100-person branding agency. That does not appeal to me. I think the sweet spot of being what I would call like a micro agency works really well for me and also for my clients. Now, I will say that we bring in contractors to work on things like social media, SEO. For example, if we get somebody who needs a WordPress website, we don't work in WordPress, so I will outsource that. So occasionally there's like 1 other person or 2 other people working with our team on a project, but my core 3 team members is myself, my VA/studio manager, Taylor, and my graphic designer, Paige. And I really think that I have found like the dream team and the sweet spot when it comes to growing a team in a way that actually feels supportive and not overwhelming. But to be completely transparent, growing a team, so like the actual hiring in the first place, but also maintaining a team is a lot on me, like mentally. Like I said in the beginning, it's a lot of pressure knowing that these people are counting on me for their paychecks every month. Like I have to hustle and go out and market the business so that I make enough money to pay them. I also really want to prioritize supporting them, like making sure that they're learning the things that they want to learn, that they feel fulfilled, that they want to continue working with me well into the future. And I have a design degree. I don't have any formal leadership training. So that has been something that I've had to really prioritize learning myself. And I am definitely nowhere near perfect. I'm like 10% of where I want to be. But I definitely think that that is something that we don't really realize is so important when we start thinking about hiring. That said, you'll remember that I said there was a time that I was like, I'm never growing a team. I don't want an agency. I am so happy with where things are now. And now that I've kind of figured out what works and what doesn't work when it comes to team and hiring, I am excited about the prospect of maybe having 1 or 2 more team members in the next couple of years. I think it's important not to grow your team too fast. While I burn myself out, I'm grateful for the years that I spent doing everything by myself because it helped me to really understand every single piece and part of my business so that I'm not in a situation where I hired all these people and now I don't even understand how my own business works. So the key takeaways when it comes to growing a team as an online service provider, I would say are 1, don't hire based on vibes alone. It has to be an equal blend of vibes and actual skill. Number 2, don't wait until you're drowning. I would say once you reach like 80% of your max capacity is when it's time to start looking for a hire. Because if you wait until you're at 110%, like I did, 1, you will probably rush it and hire more quickly than you should. 2, you will be less scrutinous of the candidates that you hire. And 3, you won't have time to train them properly. And that is going to backfire. Number 3, document. I've had so many OPM friends be like, make sure you're creating your SOPs and recording Loom videos of yourself doing stuff. And I totally blew that off. And that's part of the reason why that first graphic design hire didn't work out as well as it could have. Second time around, I had all of that stuff in place. And I also gave myself a long runway to create it and to train them and get them spun up. And it went so much differently. Number 4, stepping into a leadership role in your own business is a huge identity shift. And you have to put in actual work for that. You can't just expect yourself to just figure it out as you go. And finally, build the team that fits your life. Stop trying to copy other people's businesses and say, oh, well, they have, these 5 positions in their business that are full-time employees or contractors or whatever. So I need that too. Build slowly, hire 1 person at a time, feel things out, and figure out what supports the life and the business that you are trying to build. Building a team is hard. It's messy. You will make mistakes. You will probably have to have a lot of really tough conversations and maybe relationships that don't go the way that you would like them to, but it's still worth it. When you get it right, when you crack the code, it is so, so worth it. And it honestly not only helps you grow your business because you increase your capacity, but it makes online business feel so much less lonely to feel like you have a team of people who are in this with you. I would encourage you, if you are in the camp of I never, ever, ever want a team, to just open your mind a little to maybe there's a way that you could grow a team in a way that fits how you're wanting your business to look. And if you have a team and you're thinking, oh my gosh, this is harder than I thought it was going to be, you're not alone. It is hard, but it is also one of the most rewarding things that you're going to do in your business. Thanks for tuning in to the 6-Figure Brand Podcast. If you enjoyed today's episode, please be sure to rate the show and leave a review on whatever app you're listening on. And as a thank you, I'll send you coffee on me. Yes, I'm serious. As a smaller show for now, you taking the time to do this makes a huge impact on how we can reach more people and how I can continue to create this content for free. When you take a screenshot of your review, follow and tag me on Instagram at @SpectandCo. I'll send you a $5 Starbucks gift card. As always, don't forget to check out the show notes for any links or resources I mentioned during the episode. Thanks again for listening, and I'll catch you next week.